forget when it's here. Then I just pull up the screen page just so I can watch it.
Is this a draft?
This is a draft, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session here at the Multi-Faith Pavilion at COP15. My name is Gopal Patel. I'm serving as one of the leads on the Faiths at COP15 coordination team. We have a delegation of about 30 different organizations here, spanning a number of different faith traditions. Today I'm very excited to have Pelle Thiel here from Faith for Ecocide Law. Pelle is based in Sweden, and she's been working with a number of faith-based organizations over the last couple of years, mobilizing them in activism and advocacy around passing of this very important law on ecocide. So I'm very grateful, Pelle, for you to be with us, and I'll hand over to you to facilitate the conversation.
Thank you so much, Gopal, and it's a pleasure to be here to be able to talk about this really important law for nature. And I don't have to remind you of the urgency of where we are now when it comes to the ecological crisis. We have the negotiations here of the global biodiversity framework, and we all know that the previous framework didn't reach any of its goals. So I don't want to meet here in a decade and have a new, really good framework with targets and everything and just meet and say that we are further down the line of destruction. And that's why we really need law, binding law, to make the worst mass damage and destruction of nature, ecocide, illegal. And what many people actually don't know is that we have a really powerful framework in the International Criminal Court of The Hague, where the most serious crimes of concern to the whole of humanity, the so-called crimes against peace, are prosecuted. And those are 4 at the moment. It's war crimes, crime of aggression, crimes against humanity, and genocide. And what we in Stop Ecocide International and allies are campaigning for is a 5th crime, a crime of ecocide in this framework. So this is the only framework of international criminal law where you can hold people, individuals, accountable to actions that is destructive to nature. And it's actually really, I wouldn't say simple, but really feasible, really possible, and really powerful to make ecocide a crime there. And what we have experienced, and I should have the legal definition. We have, last year, we had a panel of international expertise, really high-level legal expertise, to make a definition of ecocide as an international crime. And since then, the interest has really exploded from civil society, from business, from faith traditions, and also from state parties. So I'm going to read the definition. Ecocide means unlawful or wanton acts committed with knowledge that there is a substantial likelihood of severe and either widespread or long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. And this definition is really anchored in international law, so it doesn't come from nowhere. It's workable for lawyers and states. And the difference for this framework compared to other international agreements and also other legislation pertaining, for example, corporations, is that it has individual accountability. So individuals who make decisions, individuals of superior responsibility making decisions that may damage ecosystems, they may go to court. And that would change the risk landscape of the decisions being made in those rooms. So you would have to count on the risk to be held accountable, which is not the case today. And that would change the whole ecosystem of, especially where finance is going today. Because ecocide today is not just legal, it's actually, we're still investing collectively in ecocide. I'm from Sweden, which has been known as a sustainability champion over the years. I don't know if that's the case anymore, sadly. But we still invest our pension funds in fossil fuel exploration in large-scale destruction of tropical forests. And that needs to stop if we are to live in harmony with nature, and we can do that actually. So we are here to talk about Ecocide Law, which is sadly not in the official conversation of the Convention on Biodiversity yet, but it would be a supportive framework, and we're meeting a lot of interest. And last year, as Gopal said, we launched this platform for faith actors. So faiths, you are everywhere, and you have connections and relationships with people all over the world. And you also have this unique ability to talk about ethics, about values, about existential issues. And I believe at this point we know that the relationship between humans and nature is an existential issue. It has to shift. It has to shift the view of who we are in this world, that we aren't the owners and the masters and the dominators of the universe. We are part of a living whole. And so it has been so rich to speak to faith actors about this. And just a couple of weeks ago at the climate conference, COP27, we launched this little book, Faith Voices for Ecocide Law, which is a collection of texts from leaders of the world religions and indigenous traditions. And it's online as an ebook and as a PDF you can download, and it's really remarkable writings here, and I highly recommend it. I hope it can be discussed and used in education, and we may also extend it to have new versions, because it's been a very, very nice thing to work on. So, I'm not a faith expert at all, maybe no one is, but I have my friend Kamran here, and I would like you to give a perspective, Kamran, from your tradition. What would Ecocide Law mean from your point of view? Why is it important?
Because I want to read out an excerpt. Thank you. I think you are an expert because you've edited the Faith Voices for Ecocide, so you should be more of an expert than us, I think. I spoke yesterday about biodiversity from an Islamic perspective, and am I okay in the camera? Yeah. Thank you. And I quoted a verse from the Holy Quran where God describes biodiversity and nature as communities like us, and we explored what does communities mean. Do we see how we see? I mean, we explored like the pictures around us. You know, we look at these very gorgeous pictures, but none of these pictures have humans in them because we separate ourselves. And so, in that same verse in the Holy Quran, as nature is being destroyed as communities, it also then, God also tells us as Muslims that every single thing on earth has been registered in the big book, and for every single thing we will be held accountable and answerable to. And so what I want to do is I want to introduce something which is a draft of, this is Al-Mizan, which is an Islamic perspective. It's a charter for care for creation. So it's the Muslim equivalent of Laudato Si. So it's quite a detailed document around what is the framework for Muslims to follow. And just like Laudato Si, it speaks to everybody. And there is a specific paragraph on ecocide in this. And I shouldn't really, this is still a draft, it's not been published, so I'll probably get in trouble from the other authors, but I think it's important in today's context. So it talks, there's a section on rights and wrongs, and this particular subheading is extirpation of species. God has created each thing bil-haq, in truth and for right, and all created beings have rights. In the Quran, it is quoted, "Not in jest have we created the heaven and the earth and all that in between them. We have not created them but for truth." Nothing has been created in vain, all are created for right. We must therefore treat none wantonly, and we must take no life except by right. But if human beings may be justified in taking individual lives, we have no right to extirpate any species of God's creatures from the face of the earth. To erase a sign of the divine, to silence a mode of God's glorification, to obliterate a community that embodies such a mode of glorification, worship and service, to destroy a unique and irreplaceable element in the fabric of life on earth. The enormity of the crime of ecocide. The exploitation of entire ecosystems, communities of species, including our own, can best be appreciated by considering the horrors of genocide. The exploitations of ethnicities and cultures. Crimes against the creation, or al-Khalq al-Alamin, are analogous to crimes against humanity and are no less grave. So that's the definition and the call to tackle ecocide from an Islamic perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think so what's needed now is exactly that, to see that in all of the traditions are the relationship to the living world is deeply embedded, and we have to find those strands of the traditions. So in this book we have the former Archbishop of the Church of Sweden, K.G. Hammar. He says that all theology now must be eco-theology. And to me, why I find it so powerful to work with Ecocide Law is that it ties together these existential and spiritual relationships that we have in all our traditions to the hard policy of our society. It ties them together, and that's what we need to do, because our society now is actually lost. So we need to find our way again. And I wanted to, there's a lot can be quoted in this book. It's so beautiful. But Rabbi Jonathan Rill, the Jewish contributor, he's quoting another rabbi, Amorai, who asked, "Where is the Garden of Eden?" And he replied, "It's on earth." So we are in the Garden of Eden, and we have to stop destroying it. And we can do that because we are humans. So I wanted to ask if there are any questions. My hope is that we are here to build a really strong foundation, a shared awareness of this possibility, that we can talk about it and join together to create better regulations for all. So what do you need to know to start talking about Ecocide Law? Yeah. Great question. Thank you for that question, a clarification. So what's needed for ecocide to become a crime in the International Criminal Court? There is a conference, an assembly of the state parties in the ICC every year. It's actually just this week. And what's needed is that one of the state parties, or preferably a coalition of them, tables a proposal for ecocide. And then it has to be voted if the Rome Statute, which is the governing document of the ICC, may adopt it. And then there is another vote if it gets adopted. So that needs 2/3 of the state parties, and they are currently 123. Yeah. And we have interest, there are discussions in 20 plus countries today, which is phenomenal. It's really moving so fast. So what we are doing is just to keep up, you know, just to keep the awareness and the support of this idea running. Yes. No, it hasn't been part of the CBD negotiations at all. So the question was, is there any language in the CBD pertaining to ecocide, but it isn't.
From what I understand, it's a legal term, so up until it's not legislated for by the International Criminal Court, no UN agencies or governments will officially use the term ecocide. Am I right?
Well, is it a legal term or not? It's both, I would say. It can, ecocide as an international crime is definitely legal, but it's also a description of something happening in the world today. But yeah, I would say that UN agencies are shying away from using it unless they are really, you know, unless it's being proposed as a legal term.
Yeah.
Other questions or clarifications, something I have missed? Yeah? Yeah. Definitely, yeah. So there was actually a bit of story around this concept is that one of the first people who mentioned the concept of ecocide was actually the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme at the very first international conference on environmental issues, which was 50 years ago in Stockholm, the Stockholm Conference. And so there was a conference held in June this year to commemorate that conference, where ecocide was not part of the official discussion, but actually two groups very strongly promoted ecocide law, and that was the youth groups and the interfaith groups. So you are already leading this field, and that had an effect on, as you say, high-level UN civil servants like the leader of the UNEP, who said that this is a term that has been bandied about a lot in the sphere, and it's coming. Gopal, yeah.
What would you like faith groups to do to help support this?
What would you like faith groups to do to support this? Such a good question. I would like you to go to faithforecocidelelaw.earth and join the initiative so that you can follow this space and educate yourselves on the issue. And we will do our best to support you and also to start talking about it, to become active in this field. This is a really, in a way, it is actually a simple idea, but it's very powerful, and we need to be a lot of people and groups who talk about ecocide as an international crime, and it really makes a lot of difference. You will see, it's so exciting to follow this idea because it develops and spreads like, I don't want to say wildfire, like love. Yeah, so I mean, it's in a way it's difficult to talk about your ecocide as a crime. It feels like heavy, but it's actually a labor of love. And so please come and join us.
Could you say a little bit about the involvement of indigenous peoples groups up to this point, and how it relates to the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and how do they resonate with the language of it?
How do indigenous people resonate with the language of ecocide? That's a kind of a tricky question. So a lot of them really welcome ecocide law because they see what it would do on a global level, because they see ecocide happening in their territories all the time. So many of them see that this is really what's needed to protect their rights, because according to them, ecocide is often, it is genocide, it's the same thing, because the genus is also the trees and the rivers and the birds, and you know. And others are suspicious around Western law overall. So there is also some suspicion.
And what involvement to this point?
There is a lot of involvement. We have some panels and events here at COP15, and we have indigenous representatives on all of them. So we are playing with them a lot. We have in this book is a contribution from a Sami spiritual leader and a spiritual leader from Benin. So as you know, as with all of the biodiversity work, they are really important actors, and we want to involve them always. Yeah, your question. No. What's interesting is that they are actually all over the world. So the leaders in the space are the small island states for obvious reasons. So Vanuatu, especially, and the Maldives, Samoa. In Europe, it's especially Belgium, who is now discussing to have ecocide as part of their penal code domestically, and also France, Finland, Bangladesh. What else? New Zealand, Bolivia? Not really. Yeah, so for anyone who's interested, and I hope you are, go to stopecocide.earth and you'll find leading states there and the whole, what they are saying and what level, and yeah. Yes?
What other ecocide-related events or productions should tell
What ecocide-related event before the end of COP? Oh, the panel I'm hosting tomorrow. So Patricia is sharing our events that will start from tomorrow, and we have a really exciting business event as well. So we try to work really broadly with a lot of actors, and we believe that the business voices are also very important. So there is an event on business for Ecocide Law. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm just thinking practically, do you envision some way of bringing this in a gradual way? Because tomorrow, if it was passed, 90% of the countries in the world would be in major crisis in the north. So is it just a question of raising awareness as countries gradually kind of step back from all of those behaviors? So as they see it coming, they do better, or just it's going to come down?
That's a really good question. How can we do this in a way that doesn't disrupt institutions in a major way? Is that
who would naturally be opposed to it?
Who?
Yeah. Fear.
Yeah, because of all the ecocides that we now take for granted in business as usual. Yeah. So to me, the transition that we are in is a really, really big one. And how do we do that in a peaceful way? And ecocide as a crime is a very important stepping stone towards a life in harmony with nature, because as soon as this conversation is started, which it has, a lot of actors will start to think about it before it's even there, because we, as I said, we don't want to throw people in jail. That's not the point. We want the ecocide to stop happening. And today we are in a system that makes people make these bad decisions, which they don't have to make, because we can have an economy that doesn't rely on destroying nature, and we have to start shifting that field. And I think a lot of the discussions happening here at the CBD is about that also. Like, how can we do better? But we need to have strong rules in common that are applicable for all to make that the case. And so that's another strength that I maybe didn't clarify around the Ecocide Law, is that is global. And many of the actors, and there are actually not so many actors that are responsible for mass damage and destruction of nature. They are multinational, but there are no corresponding frameworks to hold them accountable. And that's what this would be. Yes?
true that under the Rome Statute, that the International Court can only prosecute individuals?
Yes.
So, but a lot of the time, if not most of the culprits are big corporations.
Yes.
So, what's the strategy to prosecute the CEO of the company, or what?
Yeah. So the question was about at the ICC, individuals are the culprits, not the corporations. But in reality, the corporations are the culprits. But there are individuals in those corporations making those decisions, and I have this picture. I want to share with you the picture I have, which is that today, if you were a CEO in a company and you were presenting, you in the audience here, you are the board of the company, and I'm presenting this project that we have been working on for 15 years. It's about oil exploration in the Arctic. And we have invested so much in this project. And now we are going to give it a go-ahead. And I say to you that, I know that we have invested so much in this project, but I have a granddaughter, and she's now sitting in front of the town hall every Friday. And she says that if I am part of this project, she will never ever speak to me again. So, we all know about climate change, and I don't think we shouldn't do this. We know that. And then you would say, because you are the chairman of the board, you would just say, okay, climate change isn't our responsibility. Our responsibility is to make profit for our shareholders. So, the door is there. You can leave. We have to have a new CEO, because that's how the system works today. While if ecocide was an international crime, I could say that, I know that we have invested so much in this, but there's actually talk now about a new international crime, and I could go to The Hague to be prosecuted, and so could you, who is the chairman of the board. We are the people who are responsible at the top of these decisions. And I don't think anybody is interested in us going to The Hague. You are not interested, our shareholders are not interested, our customers are not interested.
I don't want to go to jail.
You don't want to go to jail. We have to do something else. I don't think our investors aren't interested in us going to jail. No, let's not go to jail. Let's do something better. Let's invest in renewable energy instead. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
The strategy is to, if it comes to that, to prosecute the officers of the company.
Yes, yeah. And it could be, members of the government as well. It's not. It's probably most a corporate crime, but there are other responsible individuals. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, and maybe we can continue the discussion not in front of the camera.
I mean, you have more radical things you're going to tell us off there?
No, this was the most radical I had. I think it's radical enough, isn't it? Yeah, it's radical, it's powerful, and it's so possible too.
Yeah,